Hello, and welcome to 5016 Street. Today we're going to be having a discussion about something that comes up in our clinical work in lots of different ways. And it's the issue of body image and the pressures that we experience and that our patients experience around body image and aspiring to look particular ways. My name is Michael. I'm one of the psychologists here in the team, and I currently run the psychosexual service here at 5016 Street. And I'm joined today by Dan Hullams, who's one of our health advisors within the team. Hi, Dan.
Morning.
Hi, Dan. Body image is something that comes up all of the time in our work here, and we know that it's an issue that disproportionately affects gay men. In fact, apart from heterosexual women, gay men are the most affected by concerns and anxieties around body image, and there's lots of research to back that up. What are the ideals that you see, Dan, around body image in the work that you do here?
So in terms of how we appear, I would say the average person is looking to look more impressive, to look stronger, and heading towards an idea of being, I guess, hypermasculine.
And I think that I definitely see that all the time. And I think there's something about being more muscular, looking bigger, effectively adhering to the traditional ideas of masculinity. And there's some research that's been done by the YMCA that shows that up to 50% of men would trade a year of their life to look more like that masculine ideal. Up to a third of men are taking protein supplements at the moment, and around 1 in 8 are considering or are using steroids. So this is something that a lot of us feel loads of pressure to try and adhere to. Where do you think these ideas come from?
I think in the past, a lot of us have experienced a hard time at school, whether we've been harassed or teased. And I think as we come into adulthood, we're looking to make ourselves look the most impressive that we can. And oftentimes it can be to feel more reassured for ourselves, but also potentially for the world in a way of saying, look at us now. We have changed, we've improved.
And I think actually there's always been that kind of masculine idea in the gay community that like looking more butch, looking bigger, having bigger muscles was always something that brought more power. And we're bombarded with these messages. I mean, if you just look outside, look around the scene, look online, there are messages about what is the ideal body image for men, and particularly for gay men. And I think being more masculine is still seen as more powerful. It's still seen as preferential, and fitting in and being able to conform with those sort of heterosexual ideas of what masculinity looks like is still really important. And I think it comes through loads of aspects of our culture. And I think particularly one of the big sources, and I don't know about you, but in the day-to-day work that we do here is the influence of apps, particularly Grindr, other apps, where there still is massive amounts of emphasis placed on what we look like, what our bodies look like. And that, in fact, most of us are kind of distilled down to just those little pictures of what we look like. And I certainly see guys coming into the clinic all the time really worried about that or thinking about that a lot of the time. I don't know what your experience is.
Definitely, I think that a lot of people easily fall into a system of everything being about sex and how they appear for sex. And I guess it kind of hypersexualizes us if we allow it to. And I think that can be a problem if we put all of our emphasis into how we look and our ability to provide sex.
And for you, what do you think some of the assumptions that are made by patients within the clinic or people that we see about what is going to happen if we do get that body image? I mean, for me, a lot of the guys that I work with will come in and talk about, well, if I just look a bit better, then I'll be happier, or I'll have more sex, or more people will be interested in me. Is that true for you? Do you see those messages? Do you get those kind of things coming through?
Yeah, definitely. I think that people have the idea that the more muscular, more attractive they look, sex will be easier to come by. They will have, I guess, more frequent sex, and the sex will be more amazing as well.
I totally agree. And I think, though, that message is pumped out, actually, in not just in gay culture, in our culture generally, and from quite a young age, actually. And I think for all groups, there is this idea that if your body looks better, you're going to be more attractive, more people are going to want you, and you're going to be happier in some ways. And I think a lot of what I tend to see within the psychology service is that people are often really, really hoping that if they just change their body or they just keep working on it and it looks a bit better, then they'll be happier in some way. And I think the assumption's made the other way around as well. I think we all fall into this trap. If we see people out in the street that look a particular way, or we're looking online, or we're looking on TV at people that have particular body images, we make assumptions that like they must be happy, they're successful, that they have a confidence about them because of the way they look. But it's not always true, is it? There's also, in fairness, there are kind of assumptions that we can also make that are negative about people that have a particular body image or look a particular way. In particular, I'm thinking about assumptions we make about whether someone is very intelligent or whether they've got a lot of other things to offer if they look a particular way. Did you have any experience of that? Does that ever come up?
For sure, and I think also we have the idea that a person that is very attractive is potentially very invested in themselves to the extreme of being arrogant or unfriendly or unapproachable. And I think that also sets up a situation where that person can be very isolated as well, because if we are presuming this before we even engage with them, oftentimes it will stop people from approaching, which is an even more isolating situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to say at this point that we're having this discussion about body image because we know it can be an issue for some people. But going to the gym, working out, trying to build your body and look more muscular isn't a problem. And there's no problem with doing that at all if it's making you happy and if it makes you feel confident. But what we see all too often, I think, is that sometimes the aspiration to do that just causes additional stress and pressure. Or as you're just alluding to there, can actually cause isolation or make people feel like they're not getting everything that they want. In a past life, I hope you won't mind me disclosing that you were an exercise physiologist. What does it take to get that body? I want to know the secrets. But what does it actually take to look like that body, ideal, that body aesthetic?
For sure. And I guess there it's important to discuss what the recommendations are in terms of exercise and what the reality is to look like an underwear model. In terms of the recommendations, the ACSM say to us that we should engage in exercise that is resistance training, around about 3 times a week or more, and it should be 8 to 12 exercises. What we see, however, for people that are actually working to achieve this look is exercise usually every day, or at least 5 times a week. It's at least an hour to an hour and a half, and it's at a high intensity for the majority of the time.